Started, such as winding a bobbin, threading the needle, selecting a stitch, changing the needle, and more. Let's start by taking a tour of the machine. The first thing we're going to do is plug in the machine and turn it on. And you'll know the machine is on when the light comes on. We have the hand wheel, the bobbin winding stopper, the bobbin winding spindle, the handle, the spool pin where we'll put our thread, the stitch width dial to adjust the width of our stitches, the needle position dial, the tension dial to fine-tune the look of our stitches, the bobbin winding tension discs, a metal threading guide, another metal guide, and here's the take-up lever. This will be really important when we thread the top of the machine. On the front we have the reverse lever to sew in reverse, the stitch length dial to adjust the length of our stitch, the stitch selector dial, and by the needle we have the all-purpose foot and the presser foot lifter to raise and lower our presser foot. Here we have the bobbin holder with a bobbin already inside, and we can take off the removable storage compartment to expose our free arm. And that's really great for sewing small circular projects like pants hems and cuffs. Behind the free arm is the drop feed lever. You can move that lever to drop your feed teeth, and that is especially useful for sewing on buttons and free motion quilting. We can open our removable storage compartment to reveal our included accessories. These include some bobbins, needles, a spool cap, and some additional presser feet. Let's take a closer look at those presser feet. In addition to the all-purpose foot that comes on your machine, you get a buttonhole foot used for sewing buttonholes, a button sewing foot used for sewing on buttons, and a zipper foot used for inserting zippers, and it can also be used for inserting piping. Before we wind our bobbin, first raise the presser foot and move this little black button over to the right. And remove your clear view cover. And retrieve your Class 15 bobbin. This machine uses Singer transparent Class 15 bobbins. So if you go to the store to purchase more bobbins, remember to purchase Singer Class 15 transparent bobbins. Place your spool of thread on the spool pin and cap it off with the spool cap. Bring the thread over to the metal guide marked number 1 and bring it down and fit it snugly in between the bobbin winding tension discs and wrap it around. Bring the thread over to the bobbin winding spindle, and the bobbin doesn't have a designated top or bottom. So insert the thread into the bobbin and out through the top of the hole. Press the bobbin onto the bobbin winding spindle until you feel it click into place. It is important that the bobbin is all the way on the bobbin winding spindle to make sure the thread doesn't accidentally wrap around the spindle itself. Move the bobbin winding spindle to the right, hold on to the thread tail, and press the foot control to begin winding. When the thread tail is buried, clip the tail flush with the top of the bobbin And continue winding until the bobbin is full or until you have enough thread on the bobbin. When you're finished winding your bobbin, move the spindle back to the left and remove the bobbin. And trim the thread. Before we put the bobbin into the bobbin holder, make sure the thread is coming off the bobbin in a counterclockwise motion. Or, if the thread is hanging down in a tail, it will make the letter P. P for perfect sewing. Place the bobbin into the bobbin holder and lightly hold the bobbin in place. Bring the thread into the metal guide and let it hang to the side. If you've just wound a bobbin, the top of your machine probably looks like this. Remove the thread from the bobbin winding tension discs. It's already in metal guide number 1. Bring the thread in metal guide number 2, down number 3, U-turn at number 4, up to number 5 at the take-up lever. Bring your thread from right to left and back down to number 6, and place the thread behind this first metal guide. Then bring the thread behind the metal guide right above the needle and thread the eye of the needle. And pull the thread back. To draw up the bobbin thread, hold the upper thread tail in your hand and turn the hand wheel towards you, 1 complete rotation, while lightly pulling up on the upper thread. This will pull up a loop of the bobbin thread. Just pull it through and bring the threads under the presser foot. Put the clear view cover back on top and click it into place. Now we're ready to test a stitch. Before we test sew, make sure your stitch selector dial is set to a straight stitch. If it's not, just turn your stitch selector dial so that the straight stitch is in line with the gray dot above. I'm going to set the stitch length between a 2 and a 3, which is pretty standard for a straight stitch. And make sure the stitch width is set to 0. Take your fabric and put it under the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and begin sewing. When you're done sewing, turn the hand wheel towards you so that the needle is in the highest position. Raise the presser foot, remove your fabric, and trim your thread. Our stitch looks good on the top and on the bottom, so our machine is threaded correctly. If your stitches look good on top, but look loopy, or even irregular on the bottom, then you will need to rethread your upper thread. Now we're ready to sew a seam. My machine is already set up for a standard straight stitch, and my needle position dial is already set for the center position, which is where it will be for most sewing. My needle plate has lines and measurements on them, such as 3/8 and 5/8 of an inch. Most commercial projects have 5/8 inch seam allowances, so I'm going to line my fabric up with the 5/8 inch seam, lower the presser foot, and sew forward a few stitches. Press and hold the reverse lever, and sew backwards a few stitches. Release the reverse lever, and sew down the seam. Notice I'm not pushing or pulling the fabric, I'm just guiding it. Stop sewing when you reach the end of your fabric. Press and hold the reverse lever and sew backwards a few stitches. Release the reverse lever and sew to the end of the fabric. Turn the hand wheel towards you so that the needle is in the highest position. Raise the presser foot. Remove the fabric and trim the thread. And there's our seam. We did reverse stitching at the beginning and the end of the seam to secure it so it doesn't unravel. Now let's take a look at some of our other stitches. This machine comes with a variety of basic and decorative stitches that can be customized for your project using stitch length and width. I'm going to select the zigzag stitch on the stitch selector dial, and I'm going to move my stitch length to 1 to create a short zigzag, and I'm going to move my stitch width to 2, which will make it short and narrow. Place the fabric under the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and begin sewing. Stop sewing when you've reached the end of your fabric. Turn the hand wheel towards you so the needle is in the highest position. Raise the presser foot and clip the thread. There is our short and narrow zigzag. Now I want to adjust my zigzag stitch. I want to keep it short, but I want to make it wide. So I'm going to move my stitch width dial all the way to number 6 and leave my stitch length set at 1. Now I'm going to place the fabric back under the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and begin sewing again. Stop sewing once you've reached the end of the fabric and turn the hand wheel towards you so that the needle is in the highest position. Raise the presser foot and trim the thread. And there is our short and wide zigzag. Now I want to change up the zigzag stitch again. This time I want to have a long zigzag. So I'm going to move my stitch length dial to the number 4. I already have it set at number 6, so let's try a long and wide zigzag. Place the fabric underneath the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and begin sewing. Turn the hand wheel towards you so the needle is in the highest position. Raise the presser foot and trim the thread. There is our long and wide zigzag. Last.
Wait, you haven't seen the best part yet. Here are some amazing offers and specials available for one time only. You can't afford to miss it.